Hey everyone, how you doing this morning? It's Marla. Hopefully everybody is doing well. I'm trying to get an angled view. It's very sunny today. Trying to get a view that the sun is not blaring in your face. This is just going to be a quick car chat video about pre-diabetes and being thin and eating well and still kind of having an A1C that ends up running into the pre-diabetic range. I forget who it was, but somebody wanted me to talk about this, and I have about 10 minutes before I have to go in to see my pain management doctor in Arizona. Don't get me started on getting pain management meds in Arizona. It's a process. But anyway, what I wanted to say was I did speak with an endocrinologist. I had an appointment with an endocrinologist, and he ran some different labs on me. He did run, again, my TSH to see how my thyroid was doing, and I have, Hashimoto's. I don't think my thyroid pumps out much of anything anymore, but I do have Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. He also did a complete metabolic panel, and in that he tested my glucose, and then he ran some tests that I have never had before, and I really wasn't that sure about what they were initially. He ran a group of tests under the grouping of insulin antibodies. Now, my insulin antibodies were normal, and when I read about it, it says if you have a high insulin antibody level, that means that you have an allergy in response to insulin. So I don't have that. Then he checked my A1C, which is 5.6. Now that is the very top of the normal range. A1C basically sees how your blood glucose has been averaging over the past, few months. He also tested something called C-peptide serum. Now mine was low. And what C-peptide serum is, it tells you if your pancreas is producing insulin, or if it's producing too much insulin, or if it's producing too little insulin. Mine was low, but it said that if your glucose was low when you did this test, and if the C-peptide serum happened to be low, that could just mean that you hadn't eaten that morning, which I didn't do. You just were more fasting. So I think even though mine's low, and I do feel like that is kind of a problem for me, I have a funny feeling my pancreas just is not producing as much insulin as it should be. But anyway, my glucose was 85, which was right in the middle of the normal range for this lab at LabCorp. They also tested something called GAD65 antibodies. That is a marker for predisposition to certain autoimmune conditions, like type 1 diabetes, Hashimoto's, Addison's disease, and my GAD65 antibodies were normal. And then he tested more thyroid numbers, and then he tested a PTH intact. Mine was normal, and that tests your parathyroid hormone to see, I think that can affect your blood calcium levels. Overall, the only thing that was low on me was that C-peptide serum, and if you weigh it against my average glucose, I think my glucose was 85. I think the range on this test was 70 to 99. So, kind of right in the middle. If you do have a higher C-peptide, that does mean that your body is making too much insulin, and you're probably type 2 diabetes or possibly have Cushing's syndrome or some other issue. If you have low, you could be type 1, which I'm not, because usually type 1, I think, get diagnosed when you're younger. There are some cases of type 2, or it could just be low due to that you had not eaten recently, and I believe I did do this fasting. That is, as long as your blood sugar is, normal to low, which mine was. I think if your blood sugar is high, if your glucose is high when you get this test done, but you have low C-peptide serum, then that can be an indication of type 2 diabetes, I believe. Don't quote me. I'm not a doctor. I'm kind of just doing my own research online. So, what have I come to the conclusion of? I really don't know. I don't understand why I can't eat like normal little people that I see eating their old ice cream and they seem fine. I am very thin, and as I said, I got COVID over the holidays and I lost 10 pounds, so I am super thin now. I am not a fat thin, as some people say. I am a very fit thin because I walk at least 5 miles a day with my dogs. I'm fairly fit. I don't overeat. I think for me, I do feel like my pancreas may be not pumping out the adequate amount of insulin that should be. What I have found is I can keep my A1C in the normal range if I do not or really cut back on my sugar. I can still have carbs, but I have to make sure I have protein with my carbs. If I do want to have a sweet, I have which I hate, I have a sugar-free chocolate. They don't taste the same, but they do not seem to affect my blood sugar levels. That's all I can tell you. My endo kind of did all the tests, said you're fine for now, and just set me on my way. Didn't want me to do anything. If you feel that you are thin, fit, and are concerned because your A1C is high or your glucose is high, you may want to see an endocrinologist just to have these other numbers checked out. He did all this testing and it was kind of like he didn't want to see me again. I just want to let you know about my sugar issues and what I'm doing for my sugar issues. So if you're thin, fit, and have a higher sugar level and are testing sometimes high with A1C, you may have issues with your insulin. I think it's insulin autoantibodies. I believe that's what they are. You may want to get that checked out by an endocrinologist just to make sure. My regular PCP, who's an internist, who's very good, never ran these labs before. The endo was the only one, the first one that's ever run these type of labs. So you may, like I said, have to go to an endocrinologist. Hope that was an informative car chat for some of you. Take care, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye from Marla.